A Special Forces veteran who had endured the brutality of the battlefield finally decided to return to his homeland in Russia. He traveled a long way until he arrived in a small town that looked peaceful but secretly held a strange unwritten rule: you may ask questions, but you must never answer them. Unknowingly, he broke this rule and drew the attention of the local authorities. 2 low-ranking policemen stopped him and demanded his identification papers. When one of them inspected his belongings, he grew suspicious of something beneath the man's leather jacket. Swiftly, the man opened his jacket and revealed a sharp blade. The 2 policemen instantly panicked. Although the veteran explained that he had a permit to carry the weapon, they still forced him to surrender it. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be a kukri, a traditional knife of the Nepalese army. Without further discussion, they handcuffed him. After making sure the area was clear, one officer struck him with a baton. To their surprise, the veteran's extraordinary reflexes allowed him to dodge. The fat policeman tried to attack, but the man simply shifted his body slightly and shoved him to the ground. Realizing their opponent was no ordinary man, the 2 policemen pulled out their pistols and forced him into their car. The veteran didn't want to escalate the matter, so he complied. But suddenly, the fat officer struck his back with the baton. Strangely, the man did not complain at all, he only stared with cold eyes, not knowing that their actions would soon bring disaster upon themselves. At the police station, his belongings were confiscated, and he was handcuffed again. Though it was a police office, the place felt more like a den of bandits. The officers there routinely caused trouble, extorted the townspeople in the name of protection money, and then shared the profits among themselves. A captain entered the cell and asked why the man remained silent. Yet the veteran said nothing. The captain grew irritated, striking him with a baton until faint groans could be heard. The more stubborn the man became, the more savage the captain was. He pressed the baton against the man's face, shouting at him to respond. But the veteran only glared back with disdain. Feeling insulted, the captain grew even more violent, striking him repeatedly before pulling out an electric baton. This time, the veteran fought back. He lunged forward, kicking the captain's legs until he fell. As the captain struggled to rise, other officers rushed in to break up the brawl. Without realizing it, the captain had just endangered his own life. Soon the deputy director was called in. Seeing the sharp kukri, he asked why the man carried it. Calmly, the veteran answered with a single word: enemies. The reply was treated as a joke. Shortly after, the obese police director arrived. Among them all, he was the only one who still seemed to have some sense. He ordered the handcuffs removed and examined the man's identification. They were stunned to discover his name was Shamanov, a major in the Special Forces. At once, the officers who had abused him deeply regretted their actions. The director quickly returned Shamanov's belongings. Everything appeared to settle down, until the director made a fatal mistake: he played music from Shamanov's MP3 player. Shamanov stepped out of the room and encountered a beautiful young woman, a face he felt he had seen before. After leaving through the gate, he realized his beloved MP3 player was missing. The device meant so much to him, having always kept him company during sorrow. He returned, only to find the director harassing the young woman. Seeing her cornered and helpless, Shamanov at first stayed silent, calmly retrieving his MP3 player and winding its cord. But when the director grew more aggressive, Shamanov gripped the device with his fingers, then turned around. In an instant, a powerful blow smashed into the head of the 90-kilogram director, sending his body crashing helplessly to the floor. Without hesitation, Shamanov grabbed an ashtray, pulled out a telephone cord, pocketed a lighter, and led the girl out. He walked calmly, as if nothing had happened. When another officer was about to enter the room, the ashtray flew at his head. Seeing Shamanov holding a telephone cord, the policemen panicked. They tried to aim their guns, but with simple tricks, he took them down one by one. The girl was stunned, unable to believe a Special Forces soldier could dismantle police officers so easily. Before leaving, Shamanov even dismantled all the weapons in the office, then guided the girl out. Yet they stumbled into a bathroom full of corrupt cops. Shamanov pushed the girl outside and fought them all. The inexperienced officers couldn't last long against him. A young officer tried to resist, but his arm was locked, twisted, and his body slammed to the floor. Shamanov pulled the girl again, and at the stairwell, they faced the deputy director. Before he could react, Shamanov disabled him with just 3 swift moves. It was clear that if Shamanov applied full military methods, no policeman could survive. Outside, Shamanov even lit a cigarette for one officer using the police chief's lighter. Meanwhile, the girl trembled, eyes filled with tears. She realized her actions had dragged Shamanov into grave danger. If caught, he would be tortured to death. She pleaded with him to leave her behind and escape the town. But the captain who had been beaten earlier had regained consciousness. Burning with vengeance, he ordered his men to hunt Shamanov down.
Понял.
Though the girl wished to keep him from further trouble, the police cars were already in pursuit. Forced to flee, Shamanov sped off. Bullets rained wildly, but he skillfully evaded them and executed a daring maneuver onto a small road. The police shots all missed. Shamanov then descended a slope on a motorcycle, leapt into the air, and dashed toward a bulldozer. The captain, out of rifle ammo, tried his pistol, but not a single shot landed. With such poor aim, it was a wonder how he became a policeman. As he attempted to escape by car, Shamanov drove the bulldozer into the front. He crushed the hood, then smashed it with the bucket. The captain ordered the driver to reverse, but a truck slammed them from behind. The car exploded into flames. The station fell into chaos. Even the chief was terrified. What kind of man were they up against? Soon it was revealed, this was a Maroon Beret Special Forces soldier, who had carried out top-secret missions, received 2 medals of state service, and was decorated for bravery. Now Shamanov moved into the mountains. He knew the police would never let him go. If they wanted to play, he was ready to go to the end. Unfortunately, the foolish police chief had no idea he had dragged his entire force toward destruction. Let us see how a Maroon Beret soldier takes on an entire police station using only the tricks of war, without a single bullet. Shamanov entered a ruined forest area. He found a matchbox, old electrical wire, rusty nails, and pieces of wood. Meanwhile, the policemen complained about having to camp in the rain while chasing this criminal. They had no idea Shamanov was assembling deadly weapons. He tied nails to the end of a wooden staff with wire, then burned it so it would harden. He had forged a trident-like weapon. These he planted in various locations. Not stopping there, Shamanov discovered a small wooden cabin. He scavenged for anything useful, including a round metal plate and a secret passage. Once everything was ready, he sat calmly, listening to his beloved MP3, waiting for his enemies to step into his traps. That night, 2 cocky officers drank brandy and foolishly set off alone. They thought the darkness would help them ambush Shamanov, dreaming of glory if they caught him. Moving through the trees, they spotted a firelight in the distance. Believing the target was carelessly exposed, they switched off their headlights and crept closer. They reached the cabin quickly. One officer tried to barge in, but a wooden board slammed his forehead, staggering him. His partner rushed forward, only to be met by Shamanov's brutal kick. As he struggled, he was struck down with a wooden pole. Interestingly, Shamanov did not kill them. Instead, he gathered firewood and forced them to handcuff each other near the campfire. Both were bewildered, unable to grasp what had just happened. Calmly, Shamanov gave them a message: "Tell your major to stop chasing him." By morning, the police chief found his guards missing. Wasting no time, he deployed his entire force. Upon finding the cabin, they stormed in, but instead of their target, they found their bruised comrades. The bald one even bragged he almost caught Shamanov, though it was clearly a lie. Whispering, he relayed the warning that the lieutenant colonel should cease pursuit. Hearing this, the chief grew furious and slapped him. To speed up the search, he ordered his men to form lines and sweep wider. While the police stumbled through the forest, Shamanov moved swiftly, like a fish in water. Suddenly, 2 officers fell into his traps in quick succession. Shamanov hurled his trident precisely, then shifted positions. The chaos caused panic, with officers firing wildly, nearly hitting each other.
Ты чё, придурок, автомат-то шо?
Опусти-то автомат!
The hunt had barely begun, yet 3 were already down. To Shamanov, they were like ants. His shadow haunted every corner. As one policeman spoke, another trident struck its mark.
Все за ним! Зубов и ты!
The chief pressed forward, but it was clear they were against a guerrilla warfare master. This forest was Shamanov's home, and he vanished at will. Soon after, Shamanov returned and disabled officers guarding their wounded comrades. His moves were swift, precise, merciless. When reinforcements arrived, they found their weapons dismantled and Shamanov's knife at their throats. He did not kill them, only ordered them to carry their comrades back and never return. Meanwhile, the chief led his men to a narrow wooden bridge. His deputy blamed him for not involving the special forces and wasting lives. The remark enraged him further, and he ordered the deputy to go first. The bridge, made of 2 logs, was treacherous. One misstep meant falling into the river. There, Shamanov lay in wait. Shots rang out, but none struck him. The slow-moving deputy became the first casualty. This time, the chief tried to be cunning. If he couldn't find Shamanov, he would wait for him to come. Sure enough, as Shamanov dashed through the forest, the chief confronted him. Shamanov was armed with his trident. Both attacked at once, leaving the chief badly wounded, sweat pouring as his life hung by a thread. Stepping carefully on the wooden planks, distracted by a hidden weapon above, he failed to notice Shamanov standing right behind him. A fierce duel erupted, firearms versus knives, police versus special forces.
Ты всё ещё не понял?
In Russia, never enrage a maroon beret paratrooper. Even with a kukri pressed to his throat, the arrogant chief showed no fear. Seeing his obstinance, Shamanov finally struck his face, sending him sprawling, then left him behind. Later, the chief staggered down the mountain, only to find a man in sunglasses waiting. Anger surged when he realized it was Colonel Dmitry of the Defense Intelligence Service, Shamanov's trainer. No one knew Shamanov better. Only under extreme circumstances could Shamanov lose control like this. Dmitry advised the chief to stop and abandon the chase. This was Shamanov's last mercy. If he had truly intended to kill, none would leave that forest alive. But the stubborn chief ignored him and drove him away. Soon news came that a helicopter was arriving in 15 minutes. The chief ordered a full encirclement, ensuring Shamanov couldn't escape. He even entered the forest himself. Hearing the rotor blades, Shamanov was forced to hide. His enemy had the advantage from the air, leaving him no choice but to run through a hail of bullets. Ahead was a cliff. Without hesitation, he jumped. From above it looked as though he was shot. Unsatisfied, the chief ordered the helicopter to sweep the river until fuel ran low. After drifting for who knows how long, an old man found Shamanov on the shore. He was brought home and cared for, and it turned out the old man's granddaughter was Nastia, the very girl Shamanov had rescued from the station. Seeing his near-death state, Nastia felt guilty, believing it was all because of her. The grandfather removed the bullet, while Nastia bravely stitched the wounds. That night, Shamanov tried to leave, not wanting to endanger them. But Nastia decided to follow, knowing if captured by the chief, her life would end. Shamanov was too weak, so they sheltered in a hay hut. The next day, armed bandits stormed the old man's house. Without warning, a sniper shot him dead. They were fugitives wanted by the police. Hearing gunfire, Shamanov prepared to fight. He gave Nastia a knife and pretended to be weak to approach them. But Nastia, hiding, was found by a blond man. At first he acted kind, but soon revealed his cruelty. Nastia fought desperately, stabbing him repeatedly with the blade. The gentle girl slowly became someone who could kill to survive. Meanwhile, Shamanov neutralized guards and rushed to the barn. He found Nastia with blood-stained face. More bandits arrived. A brutal fight erupted. Though bigger in size, none matched Shamanov's skill. He seized a sickle and drove it into an enemy's chest. From that point, he no longer held back, entering a slaughter mode, cutting down anyone in his way. Soon police and special forces arrived. Seeing 5 bandit corpses, the chief realized Shamanov was alive. He captured Nastia to lure him out, unaware Shamanov watched closely. When the chief aimed to shoot, Nastia pushed him, giving Shamanov a chance to vanish. The Special Forces commander arrived just in time, scolding the chief, saving Nastia from torture. Higher command now issued new orders: capture Shamanov alive. He was pursued into an abandoned building. At first he intended to surrender, but they attacked him with tasers. Forced to fight, even the commander lost his grenade. Yet Shamanov spared them, rescuing the commander, who fell into the water and escaping through a pipe. Unfortunately, the chief awaited at the exit. Surrounded, the officers fired but missed. Shamanov leapt into a wooden house, and another fight broke out. Strangely, though riddled with bullets, the house stood firm. Frustrated, the chief fired a rocket, setting it ablaze. He believed Shamanov dead, not knowing he hid in the cellar. Meanwhile, a general visited the Special Forces commander in hospital. Suddenly, Nastia rushed in. From her story, the general began piecing events together. At the same time, when the chief returned to his office, he found Colonel Dmitri waiting. Dmitri stayed, expecting Shamanov would come for him, believing the best way to meet him was at the chief's side. Dmitri even encouraged the chief to drink more brandy, empty the bottle, so when Shamanov returned for his MP3 player, he wouldn't feel fear. Elsewhere, police discovered a secret tunnel. As they descended, guns were pointed at their faces. Then Shamanov, disguised in a police uniform, calmly walked to a car and took the driver's phone. When the driver stepped out, he knocked him unconscious and stole the car. 2 officers trying to chase were also knocked down. Meanwhile, a guard eating noodles in front of the TV was shocked when the door burst open. Shamanov had found the chief. By then, Special Forces had surrounded the site. Colonel Dmitri entered and warned Shamanov that a massive force awaited outside, only tanks were missing. He tried to persuade him to surrender and return to Moscow. But Shamanov refused. He could not stand seeing people strangled slowly into submission. That, he said, was the reality faced by everyone in this town. They were not ordinary folk, nor castle dwellers, they had responsibility for their lives and for the world. Otherwise, the sacrifice of his comrades would be in vain, dying only for the trash of society. Shockingly, Shamanov spared the chief. He sat calmly inside, prepared to face the Special Forces. At that moment, the general arrived and ordered all troops to withdraw. However, when they tried to arrest the chief, he suddenly took Nastia hostage. Arrogantly, he boasted of his so-called service to the town. As smoke filled the room, Shamanov appeared. After venting all his fury, the chief finally released Nastia and surrendered, realizing that even if he killed someone, he could never escape. From then on, peace returned to the small town. By his superior's order, Shamanov and Colonel Dmitri prepared to return to Moscow. Nastia, who had fallen in love with him, had no choice but to accept his departure. She could only watch as the car carrying Shamanov slowly disappeared from view. And so the film ended. From Shamanov's story, we learn that injustice and greed will ultimately destroy themselves. No matter how much power one holds, if it is used to oppress the weak and corrupt society just as the rogue policeman in this film did, it will sooner or later collapse. Shamanov proved that courage, determination, and justice can defeat the rot hiding behind uniforms and ranks. And in the end, those who fight for what is right will always be remembered, even when faced with danger and sacrifice. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy, hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice just to be sure. You should watch the full movie. Thank you very much for watching.